Morning from MOAB, Utah. This is SethPerler.com, and I'm doing some road tripping right now, and I'm in the amazing MOAB, Utah. And the rocks that you see behind me are, believe it or not, they are 2,500 feet below the rocks across the street. They used to be the exact same height. The ones right here and the ones right here were actually the same height. But 6 million years ago, there was a big crack in the ground, and that crack is called the MOAB fault. And that fault runs right straight through here, and yeah. And that's actually the fault right there where that road goes. Anyhow, the reason I'm telling you this, there is a reason, is I want to talk a little bit about multiple intelligence theory and some things that go along with it. There's this guy named Howard Gardner. I think he's in the Northeast somewhere. I don't quite remember. I was really into his stuff for a while, and then I integrated it and I mixed it with a bunch of other paradigms I really like. But one of the things that Gardner talks about is multiple intelligences. He talked about these 7 multiple intelligences, and then I believe he created 8, and then I believe he created more, but he didn't really publish that work, if I'm telling the story correctly, because he couldn't locate areas in the brain for them. For example, if there is a spiritual intelligence, then he couldn't locate a part in the brain for it. But supposedly he found parts in the brain for all these different intelligences. Okay, so there is logical mathematical, there is linguistic, there's interpersonal, intrapersonal. There are these 7 intelligences, and then there is 8, and I believe there's still 8. But one of the intelligences he talks about is called naturalistic. And I completely geek out on science, nature, rocks, plants, animals. I always have. And I've noticed in my practice that I get these students sometimes who really struggle in conventional classrooms, but who are brilliantly gifted in naturalistic ways, in their relationship to nature in some way, shape, or form. And one of the tragedies, as you well know, is that when kids struggle in school and start to feel bad about themselves and start to cross that threshold where they start to say learning isn't fun, or they start to believe that learning isn't fun, when it's not learning, it's the experience that they're having in school that's not fun for them, and they start to resent learning or resent school, they don't want to try, they start giving up on certain classes or subjects. Obviously, that's tragic. And the most tragic thing is when they really give up on themselves and they can't self-actualize, and they don't understand that their strengths are tremendous and to be developed, in that they can develop their strengths in terms of, for example, their naturalistic ability, and they can create a career or multiple lifetime careers that will empower them to be happy, to contribute, and to self-actualize, and that sort of thing. So I took some notes today, and I want to go through a few of these notes here about what I want to mention about these particular students. So these particular students, they tend to struggle with linear systems. So again, they will appear to be poor students in a conventional setting. They will appear to be really struggling, and they will have trouble academically, and they don't shine in this situation. So they struggle with linear systems. That can be a school, that can be linear systems that a particular teacher is implementing in a classroom. They tend to be very visual spatial. They see things differently. They're seeing things in their head that can't be assessed on bubble tests, or in a lot of classroom assignments, or in a lot of busy work. So they're able to visualize and imagine things. For example, I have one student who's a brilliant rock climber. So in rock climbing, there's something called reading the rock. So when you're going to climb a route, you actually have to read it. You have to visualize yourself going up the rock and where you're going to make holds. So he, for example, can visualize it brilliantly. So that's something that's not measured on tests, this ability to visualize things. They tend to be very right-brained, global, big picture thinkers, so they struggle with details, but they're great with underlying concepts. And once they do master an area, even if they can't articulate it verbally or in writing, they can show that they have mastered something in their actions. Okay, so there are other ways that people can show things. And this brings me to a concept called content, process, and product. So there's an idea behind teaching that you have three things. You have the content, which is what you teach, the process, which is how you teach it or how you learn it, and the product, which is how you show your learning. And these kids, if you can, as teachers, if you can give them alternate ways to choose the content or to deliver the content to them, if you can help them process the content differently, and if you can give them alternatives in their product and how they show their learning and make those things more naturalistic, all three of those, content, process, and product, make it more relatable to them, you can help them be more successful. So think about creative ways that you can do content, process, and product with these kids. Let's see, what else do I have? These kids are often very intuitive, very sensitive, very deep feelers. And that reminds me of Dabrowski. Dabrowski has now passed on, but he left the world with this concept of something called overexcitabilities that he noticed with gifted and talented kids. And what he really meant by overexcitabilities to me was sensitivities in various ways. And there's sensory oversensitivities, there's emotional. Well, I want to talk about the emotional, and these kids tend to feel very deeply. So if they feel criticized by a teacher or a school or something, they really internalize it very, 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 very deeply. They're really affected by those things that overwhelm them emotionally when they feel like they're not being understood. So a lot of these kids really feel misunderstood. So you can look up Dabrowski and overexcitabilities and really understand about how sensitive some of these kids are. I think as adults, we tend to forget how intensely life can feel as a kid. Let's see, what else we got here? So with these kids, you really do want to give them different experiences. One of the great things for these kids is giving them gap years. They need experiences to do things differently. Trust me, kids can learn and be educated and have educational experiences in a gap year as much, if not more, than through a university. 2, there are universities that are more experiential. By the way, experiential is a good keyword you can look up, because there are schools for these kids too that are experiential type schools that will give them opportunities to be out in the South American Southwest, be out in nature, be out doing all kinds of wilderness things, be out. They can do things like work at ski resorts, they can work on rafting companies, they can do all kinds of things that teach them so many skills that are different from what you'd think. Send them to camps, send them camping, get them out in nature as much as possible, because if this is where they thrive, then you want to help them self-actualize to get a career and lifestyle that's going to include what they love and not shove them into the box. Again, it's so frustrating to watch kids get shoved off course in life and get into like some sort of corporate job or something when that is clearly not their calling. But the box can push people in the wrong ways a lot, as you know. Next, get them into service with outdoor stuff, whether it's things using animals, horses, helping other kids. A lot of these kids are awesome with younger kids. So get them into service experiences outdoors. Get them traveling. Obviously camping, getting out here. They can go out here and they can do multi-backpacking trips right behind me in Arches National Park. They can spend a week there and learn so much and get away from everything, and their nervous systems can regulate. So that's the next thing I want to mention. Give them experiences outdoors or with, again, back to multiple intelligence theory, naturalistic experiences that are going to help them regulate the nervous system. A lot of these kids are going crazy sitting in desks all day. They need to move, okay? This helps them regulate their nervous system, have less stress, have more calm, have better executive function, and ultimately better lives when they learn to regulate better. And I think that's about it. As you can see, I geek out on being outdoors. I'm just in heaven out here. It's breathtaking to me. It never gets old. I hope you are having an awesome day, parents and teachers, and I will see you soon.